Hello and welcome to our special broadcast. I'm Parikshit Luthra. Incoming President Donald Trump is set to take oath of office as the 47th President of the United States. The U.S. Capitol has decked up for the inauguration. The ceremony will see the likes of outgoing President Joe Biden, tech CEOs including his aide Elon Musk, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos and Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg in attendance. Trump's victory rally in Washington last evening was peppered with promises of deporting millions of migrants and better governance. He has pledged a barrage of executive orders on day one itself. Some of these orders will also include tariffs on Chinese imports of up to 60%. Trump also plans on suggesting the implementation of a global tariff policy of at least 10% on foreign goods. He has also threatened to impose 25% tariffs on all imports from Canada and Mexico. Trump has also vowed to end wars in Ukraine and Russia, adding that he plans on offering concessions to Russia. Joining us right now is Mukesh Aghi, the President and CEO of US-India Strategic Partnership Forum. Mr. Aghi, thank you very much. It's always great to have you on CNBC-TV18, and it's an important day. America is on the cusp of change. Several executive orders, maybe even 100, to be signed by Donald Trump. What's your expectation on tariffs? Do you think this threat of tariffs against China is going to kick in immediately?
Well, tariff is a tool for negotiation. And it's a tool to send a message to the domestic vote bank that I am going to take actions against countries which have basically sent in cheap goods and taken away your jobs. Will that get implemented? We don't know. But more important is that it just becomes a big decision, noisemaker. But more important is it sends a message to countries. Either you come to terms to negotiate, which is a fair trade between countries. For example, China just passed $1 trillion in trade surplus. That was not the order which was set up after the Second World War. So I think tariff is going to become a big issue, and it's going to become more of a negotiation tool rather than an implementation on several nations.
Right. With regard to India, do you expect President Trump to take any action in the next 24 to 48 hours, which may directly or indirectly impact India?
You have to understand, India is not a priority in the decision echelon. What you have is basically, at the moment, you have to look at what was promised to the vote bank. And basically, immigration was a big issue. Job creation was a big issue. And more important is basically deregulating the economy itself. So we will see a massive executive orders being signed on closing the border on the south side, deportation of people itself. I think India basically will get impacted because we have the third largest number of illegal immigrants. And I think government of India has taken a very proactive approach, working with the incoming Trump administration that, yes, once we have identified they are Indian citizens, we will take them back. So I think that's a right move on part of India to deal with those issues itself. But on the tariff part, you have to understand, Trump has called India as a tariff king. The memory of Harley Davidson still lingers. And so you will see some noise in that front. India will get impacted. To what degree and what depth, we will find out in the next 48 hours.
Right. Now, we also hear that when it comes to the Bureau of Government Efficiency, which has been formed to reduce bureaucracy in different departments in the White House, in the U.S. government administration, there are certain fissures. Vivek Ramaswamy possibly not on the same page as other Trump aides. What is your sense of things which are happening?
You have to understand, you have a group of people from different aspects of the society. You have the extreme MAGA who are pushing on the immigration. Then you have the tech CEOs who have come in. And there is definitely a difference in opinion on some of the positioning, some of the execution. And as far as the dodgy goes, which is being co-run between Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk, there is an extreme position being taken. We have 400 federal agencies, and we're talking about basically disbanding 300 of them. You're talking about reducing the federal budget by $2 trillion. It is a big task, high task, you have to have a team which can execute. And you're dealing with a very entrenched bureaucracy, which will be very, very hard to dismantle also. So I think it's a tall order, but at least the attempt will be made. To what level, what depth they are able to execute, or will know in the near to short term. Yes, to your answer, yes, there is a difference of opinion. But I think in any government, when you come in, you will have different groups, different interest sectors with different opinions. But I believe strongly that this time you have a much more larger team set up by the incoming administration as compared to the first term, and they're much more together as a loyalist, and they will execute in a very efficient manner.
Right. In terms of domestic manufacturing, do you expect Trump to sign more orders to perhaps maybe force or nudge American companies more strongly to move manufacturing closer home?
Well, you have to understand that it took almost 40 years for manufacturing to move out of the US, specifically into China. And you cannot overnight basically move all of that back to the US. For example, Apple has a China revenue of over almost $80 billion. It will not abandon that revenue. You have other companies which have substantial amount of domestic revenue coming out of China. So I think you will see a transition. You will see an effort, an incentive, and cajoling to ensure that these manufacturers come back. But you also have to understand, we do have a challenge. We don't have the talent. We don't have the resources to take up that manufacturing. U.S. embarked on the Biden administration on setting up 3 chip plants in Ohio, in New York, and in Arizona. And the biggest challenge we're facing is not finding enough engineers to get on the plant itself. So what we see is more of a trend, a phased trend, where we will see that high-end manufacturers start moving in slowly into the US, whereas the mid to low-level manufacturing will either stay in China or move to countries such as Cambodia, Vietnam, or India. And I think that's where India has an opportunity to basically leverage this transition to its advantage and the advantage of the United States. Basically work out how you can merge Atmanirbhar Bharat and America First into a joint value proposition, because you can basically bring in certain components to be manufactured in India and then move the final goods into the US. And we are seeing that trend taking place. We are seeing Indian companies setting up contract manufacturing in the US. We're seeing Indian companies set up solar manufacturing in the US. We're seeing Indian companies setting up garment manufacturing in the US. So the trend is there, and I think that's where we have to take a much more proactive approach to merge the ambition of India and the ambition of the United States.
All right. America First and Atmanirbhar Bharat. How do we align these strongly together? What's been your key recommendation to the Indian government, which has already made early point of contact with the Trump administration, and also to the Trump administration vis-a-vis India, as to aligning the vision of the two countries?
Well, you have to understand that what are the priorities? Priorities is basically immigration. India has a large legal and illegal immigration. The legal immigrants through H-1B are contributing substantially to the local economy, making U.S. companies much more efficient, effective, and competitive on a global basis. Yes, you also have certain group of people who are abusing H-1B. So we need to find a way to ensure that process does not continue. On the illegal immigration side, India has already taken a proactive approach by making a statement, reaching out to the Trump administration, that we will basically work with you to take back Indian citizens who have come illegally into America. And I think that's going to send a very positive message, not only to the Trump administration, but also to the masses, that India is proactively supporting it. The next step is job creation. I think that's critical because you have certain segment of society which feels they're not part of the American dream. And why is it America investing in other part of the world, or giving so much to Ukraine, or focus on Middle East, or focus on other part of Asia Pacific? So I think that's where India can play a very, very proactive role by saying, we will work with you on bringing back manufacturing, support Indian companies to set up finished goods into the U.S., focus on pharmaceutical companies, setting up plants, working with the U.S. government, setting up incentive to attract these pharma companies to come into the U.S. You have to understand 39% of all prescription drugs in the U.S. today come from India. And they bring tremendous amount of savings to the U.S. government. So I think it's important that we look at one sector at a time and see how we can partner with the U.S. companies to ensure that you're able to create jobs in the U.S. And we have to tell that story much more effectively. When you look at some of the investment we have seen, by 2023, over $40 billion were invested by Indian companies into the U.S. Over 500,000 jobs were created by Indian company into the U.S. So I think it's important to understand while we talk about jobs going out of U.S. into other part of the world, India has taken the lead. Indian companies have taken the lead to create jobs into the U.S. And final thing I like to say is on the trade surplus. India has a $45 billion trade surplus. And I think that can be taken care overnight by India procuring more energy from the U.S. Biden administration had stopped energy exports. I think one of the executive orders we will see coming out today is opening up exports of natural gases from U.S. to the rest of the world. So I believe there is a tremendous room for India to partner with Trump administration and make this a win-win value proposition.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Aghi, for joining us and giving us your sense of where India-US ties are headed under Trump. Time for a short break, but don't go anywhere. We will be joined by former Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla on what Trump's policies could mean for India. Stay tuned.